Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakal Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who are teaching this truth with sincerity. Neshah Chiakim that's out there on the four corners of the earth proclaiming this truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakal Kodash, Brakatham. And so, if you're like me, and I definitely could tell who is and who isn't. I mean, you have your notifications that come up, you know. And so, sure enough, around 6 p.m. Pacific time, which is on the East Coast of 9 p.m. Eastern time, yeah, I got notifications, in fact, from San Francisco camp, a breakdown, and then I went to play the video and it would not play. And so I'm like, okay, did they just shut down my channel? You know, so I tried switching to another account and tried to look and get through. You know, and then sure enough, I decided to look to see if there's any outages, if it was just my... So what I did is I turned off the Wi-Fi on my phone, right? To see if the Wi-Fi was messed up, you know, because, you know, if you notice, though, that they've been doing a lot of beta testing with just your local cast or Spectrum. You know, a lot of things been acting really weird lately. And then they talked about, you know, outages, you know, Verizon outages. Yeah, exactly. It is the fan of the word. This beta test was definitely to show, though, that they're going to take down the truth, you know. But most of all, though, I was trying to get on there, and I couldn't get on even with the other YouTube channels. And then I looked and saw that I looked at the outages, and they said that Eastern United States, or West East or something, had some outages, and I noticed that China had it and some other places as I was trying to look it up on the map, but there were a lot of places that didn't say that they had it. But then I went to look at the comments, and a load of them, you know, a lot of them October 17th, so that tells me that's on the other side of the world, because today is October 17 our time, but so it was happening everywhere. And then I looked to Twitter, which, you know, I have to have a backdoor to Twitter. Sure enough, RT, I found the article that YouTube was officially down worldwide. You know, this is say that you look for torrents or whatever, and they say that the thing isn't working. They're taking down torrent sites all the time, but never seen it with YouTube. So that tells me, okay, you know, the presidential alert came. Alex Jones was taken off completely. Then not long after Alex Jones, then TV government channels, the pro-government channels, were taken down as well. So not been able to get a lot of news out of Syria, because we know that Assad is about to liberate Idlib from the terrorist groups. And so we got another attack that just happened in Crimea, you know, which is a retaliatory attack. They say that this is ISIS. ISIS claims that, and we know that ISIS is really Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and all them, and yet now you got this ambassador who has also been killed, and so you got all that going on, and it's like, okay, you know, ISIS a new Benghazi scandal, you know, with the presidency and all that, and it's just because they did all this shit with Barack Obama, you know, the pressure was on him, you know, because he made the Iran deal, and or actually before the re-election. But you know what I'm saying, though, that a lot of distractions going on, but at the main time, they're looking to pull the plug on the truth, you know. And so, sure enough, this will bring in the famine of the word. So I'm going to read out of Isaiah chapter 19, starting in verse 16. I do apologize, this is not the King James Version, but this is one of the few that has the Apocrypha, so I plan to read out of that as well. Isaiah chapter 19, verse 16. On that day the Egyptians will be like woman, and tremble and fear before the hand that the Lord of hosts raises against them. And so, well, you know, that's us coming into this truth and us prophesying against them, because they know that what we're prophesying is going to come to truth. it's going to come into fruition very shortly here. And this being the year of prophecy, we've seen a lot of prophecy already take place, starting with the Sears and Kmart shut, Toys R Us, now Sports Authority shut down, Orchard Supply Store shut down completely. So we see just that alone. Then the tariffs happening, and prices and things. And then you got the storms that just happened, especially Hurricane Michael. But Florence, or was it Hurricane Florence? Yeah, I think it was Hurricane Florence, which this other one just totally, became even bigger. And the land of Judah will become a terror to the Egyptians. So we're that terror. And that's why they're trying to even call us black extremist groups, because we're a terror unto them. So they want to try to label us as terrorists. I can't help but think about what the elders and apostles they went through after September 11, that they had to spend some time in jail because they were linked to terrorist groups, which, they blamed Al-Qaeda as a part of the terrorist groups, but we know that it had nothing to do with Saudi Arabia or Al-Qaeda. It was an inside job all along. But of course, they're going to blame Al-Qaeda, just kind of like the Saudi Arabia recent events. Everybody knows that Saudi Arabia is ISIS, is the proxies of the United States. But yet, what's happening is, we're calling out everything, And so it's a terror unto the Egyptians. Everyone to whom it is mentioned will fear because of the plan that the Lord of hosts is planning against them. And what is it that we're telling them? We're telling them that thermonuclear destruction is about to come to pass, and that they will soon force their mark. And everybody who takes that mark, which is the RFID implant, will in fact be caught up in the second death, which is the lake of fire, which is the 200 million nuclear missiles and the fire coming from the chariots. On that day, there will be 5 cities in the land of Egypt that speak the language of Canaan and swear allegiance to the Lord of hosts. One of these will be called the city of the sun. And that's kind of funny because we know that Esau has no religion, so he adapts the religions of the world. And, any biblical movie, Esau wants to play all the parts. He wants to play the Egyptians. He wants to play the Greeks. He wants to play the Romans. Well, we know that he is part of the Roman Empire. He also wants to play the Israelites, so he likes to play all of it. He likes to take all that credit upon himself. And swear allegiance to the Lord of hosts. One of them will be called the city of the sun. You know how you have sun, day worship, the worship of the sun. That's why they have their congregation on the day of the sun. On that day, there will be an altar to the Lord in the center of the land of Egypt, and a pillar to the Lord at its border. It will be a sign and a witness to the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. When they cry to the Lord because of the oppressions, he will send them a savior and will defend and deliver them. The Lord will make himself known to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians will know the Lord on that day and will worship with sacrifice and burnt offering. But most of all, though, what's happening is now people are starting to find out that he's not this image that they put up, that is, in fact, a false image. What was kind of funny is just right before I got into this truth, I actually seen it, that somebody within the Pentecostal church posted on Facebook, before I got out of that, they posted on Facebook that that image of Caesar Borgia, and they did use the name Caesar Borgia, is a false image, and that they really need to repent of this, and soon enough. And there was before it's news, but she tried to paint a totally different image than what the Bible actually speaks on what she thought that the Savior should look like. But she knew that it wasn't Caesar Borgia. I think her name was Lisa. So these Edomites know that this image that they've been worshiping the whole time is not the true biblical image. They know that it's a false image. And yet, at the time, now they fear because they're finding out that the true image was, in fact, a so-called black man. And they know what they've already done to the so-called black man. And they're scared because they know that reading these scriptures, that very soon he's going to take vengeance for what was done to the children of Israel. And they know that the Latinos and Native Americans also make up the children of Israel. So they're really scared now because we're coming back to our heritage and we're calling upon our power, and we have the real names, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. And they're afraid when we speak that name because they know that their hoax is just about up. And they will make vows to the Lord and perform them. The Lord will strike Egypt, striking and healing. They will return to the Lord, and he will listen to their supplications and heal them. This is talking about those that come out of this world, like I came out of this world. I once did follow Christianity, but, slowly but surely, I'm like, wait a minute, that's not matching up to what I'm reading. How can it be all love if we're seeing all these things happening, And eventually we come to this truth, and that's how we're being healed. On that day there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrian will come into Egypt, and the Egyptians into Assyria, and the Egyptians will worship the Assyrians. On that day Israel will be the third with Egypt and Assyria, blessing in the midst of the earth, because, of course, we're going to be in power, and we're going to be a blessing to all these other nations because it's much easier for them to be a slave underneath us. Because I see it all the time, I see Palestinians telling us who our power is and saying to come back because they hate being oppressed by Amalek, that they'd rather be under slavery under us, subject unto us, because it is going to be an easier subjugation. Because, of course, Esau will be out of power. They see Esau for the piece of shit he is. They really wish that they never made that deal with Esau, when they vowed, to push Christianity and push, the lies. But most of all, though, Esau knows all this is coming, and that's why that test beta last night, And, of course, all the other beta tests, They are looking to shut this whole thing down very shortly here. So the time of mercy is just about up. So, of course, we already know about Amos chapter 8. Like I said, this is a little bit of a different translation, but I'll go into verse 7. The Lord has sworn by the pride of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their deeds. Shall not the land tremble on his account, and everyone mourn who lives in it? And all of it rises like the Nile, and be tossed about and sink again like the Nile of Egypt. And unfortunately, 2/3 of our people, all they want to do is party. They just want to have a good time. They're watching the NBA, football, all these other things as distractions. So they're not really worried about what's going on. After Hurricane Michael, they're not really too worried about anything. Well, that'll never affect me, but it is going to affect the whole economy because a lot of crops were destroyed in this. On that day, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will make the sun go down at noon and darken the earth to broad daylight. I will turn your feast into mourning and all your songs into lamentation. I will bring sackcloth on all, baldness on every head. I will make it like the morning for an only son, and the end of it like a bitter day. The time is surely cometh, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine on the land, and a famine, not a famine of bread, or a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord Yahweh. So, the time of us being able to go out there and proclaim this, we know that this is surely, we would have no reason to do it if YouTube is taken down, because most of the time we're speaking to the whole world, the World Wide Web. And without it, we know that they are already cracking down as they are making more people homeless. So as a reason for security everywhere is because the homeless problem, which they created, like Car Fire created that over here, created more homelessness, and 30% of Redding's population was already homeless, and they have a strong hatred for homeless, So, a lot of times I'll be teaching at one place, and sure enough, they're looking for loitering, because yeah, almost everywhere that I go, there's some sort of homeless colony around there, surrounding areas. They got security just about everywhere. So we got to be wise about this thing, but that just shows that the famine is coming really soon, to where it's not really safe to go into these areas because, you know, you can find out though that there won't be much reason to do it, and once YouTube's gone, that shuts down everything. And that day, the beautiful young woman and the young men shall faint for thirst. Those who swear by Ashtoreth of Samaria and say, "And your God lives, O Dan, and as the way of Bathsheba lives, they shall fall and never rise again." And we know that this time is coming to pass really soon. That we won't be out there much longer because, there's no point in being out there once the web is down. So, that's coming to pass really soon. I'm trying to get into the Apocrypha here, because that was the main reason for having this one. Yeah, 2nd Ezra chapter 11. On the second night I had a dream. I saw rising from the sea an eagle that had 12 feathered wings and 3 heads. I saw it spread its wings over the whole earth, and all the winds of heaven blew upon it, and the clouds were gathered around it. I saw that out of its wings 3 grew opposing wings, but they became little puny wings, but its heads were at rest, and the middle head was larger than the other heads, but it too was at rest with them. Then I saw the eagle flew with its wings, and it reigned over the earth and over those who inhabit it, which is talking about Babylon the Great, America, because it exalts itself as the eagle, which has always been the image of Esau from every empire that he controlled. And we know that America is that final empire, Babylon the Great. And I saw how all things under heaven were subjected to it, and no one spoke against it, not a single creature that was on the earth. Then I saw the eagle rise upon its talons, and it uttered a cry to its wings, saying, "Do not all watch at the same time in its own place and watch in its turn, but let the heads be reserved for the last." And again, we're at the last ends, the frayed ends of America, and they're scared of this, and that's why they want us off the street. Because, of course, they're not going to tell the people that, we're headed for World War III, unless it's some sort of campaigning thing, to give you the illusion of there being an election, which we know the elections are rigged. It's pretty much what these elites do is it's the game of risk. They control all the countries in the world. They just throw the dice down, and kind of like how they threw down Gaddafi, and then they threw down Saddam. They controlled all these places. France owns Syria, and like everything else, though, of course, the Syrians ain't going to capitulate. So that's why this current war, And Macron of France is saying we don't want to deal with the harlot anymore. And so France is breaking off. A lot of these other nations are breaking off because they're tired of playing that game. They're tired of playing games with Esau, which, are the bankers. And we can also see that what's happening is this cashless society is coming up really quickly, And we already know that they've pretty much gone cashless in Venezuela, but we know that China's been developing that for years, and Beijing is a cashless area. People pay with cell phones, with the barcodes. And we know the number of his name, the person that invented the barcodes. We know that 666, being the number of his name, that it's we got the system already in place. The beast system is already in place. And so the last thing to do is to make everybody capitulate to those chips. which are, already in credit cards and the Real ID Act, that they're going to replace everything with that. And that's going to roll out all these other things, which is why we're seeing these other things coming. So just as all this is about to happen, they will shut down this internet and we'll start gaining control. They'll take down all the free channels and they'll make it to where you have no choice but to subscribe to YouTube Red. But as far as being able to upload content, no, man, it's going to be way more regulated. That pretty much you're not going to see us prophesying anymore. And for that, that means that everything else must come to pass. That means that the elect must have been sealed by that point, because once this word has gone out, then there's really no more warning. Warnings are up. And it's now time to be prepared because Yahushua is coming back. And that's what they're really scared of, is they know that this is kicking off real soon. So they got to do what they got to do in order to hold on to what they think that they have. Most of all, to fight against Yahushua and the angels, which is why they have the Space Force, which is why, they're spending tons and tons of money trying to build that up, because it's coming back to take this place. And with that, last night's beta test is just what it was. But also, you can best believe that during that beta testing that they were definitely probably took down some channels, because we know that they've been removing government channels and a lot of truth are been shut down. And of course, our channels have been shut down on numerous occasions, unfair community guideline strikes. So it's just a matter of time to where by the time they get us off of YouTube, that we won't be able to go to a second or third channel, And pretty much, they'll be able to track by the IP address, and just won't allow us back on there. And that's when we know that our job is done. And all we do is just watch for the events. Most of all, stay vigilant. And of course, we know not to take the RFID implant, no matter what. So for that, I want to say, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakal Kadash, Barakatham. Hope this has been edifying. Shalom.